Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press, the Down Beach Current, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Could you please take a second, turn off all electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Johanna, call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg?
I'm here.
Seeing as there are no items for discussion on the agenda, we will go to department head reports. Frank, why don't you start today?
Sure. We've been out the ball field. We've been cleaning up all the whole ball field area. Plus, we started mulching. We put down 2 truckloads of mulch already, and we're almost there to finish it off. We're almost done the bulkhead at Mansfield Avenue. We recoated it. We put about at least 10 coats of epoxy concrete on it. And it actually is looking very good. The bulkhead at Exeter Avenue is finished. It's all refaced, and they put some new whalers on it and everything. It came out real nice. Fire hydrant flushing. We're going to start flushing fire hydrants from March 20th to March 24th. We want to get it done before they drain the tower to start painting it. We're still on the beach. We're moving a lot of sand from the wind. Sand's been blowing all over the place. We're trying to keep our scuppers open. And in the water and sewer department, the past 2 weeks, we fixed a water main. We fixed 2 broken water services. We installed a new water and sewer service on Decatur Avenue. And we've been putting in a lot of meters and meter pits and things like that because of all the new construction. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank. Good job as always. Jimmy?
Just want to pick up where Frank left off with the wind. We went around to a couple of job sites to make sure they keep the barriers up surrounding their property so that the wind wouldn't blow all the debris down the streets. We're also trying to, if the guy's got his dumpster uncovered, we're trying to tell him to get the tarp on there during the night so all the debris doesn't blow out of him. I think one of our key aspects this spring and this summer is going to be maintaining job sites and safety. So if you guys see anything out there that you see is unethical or looks totally out of ordinary, just give me a call. I'll go out there and take care of it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Abbott?
Couple things, Mayor. One of the things I wanted to answer is Lisa. There's Lisa. There she is. I guess she came back from that sushi dinner. Did I see that you're in the newspaper?
Yeah.
Congratulations. I was just thinking of it. You've asked me about what we're doing to collect money for the city and the demolition liens.
Yeah.
I've checked, and I know some emails are around. We have, actually, Margate has a pretty comprehensive ordinance requirement. Jimmy's office, as far as I can tell, has properly noticed the people in the few houses that we have demolished. The tax office has those costs and those expenses as liens or added taxes. And I believe it's going to be in September. It runs with interest, that they can actually put them up for sale, the liens, and collect, if somebody wanted to buy a lien, who could then foreclose on the property. Now, just to make sure we have all our I's dotted, and at Lisa's prompting, I will sit down with our tax assessor and our tax collector and Jimmy Galantine, our construction official, just to make sure we have it. I know for sure on 2 of them, we're in very good shape. We have liens in our tax office for Lancaster and what was the other one? Bendon Avenue. Or Union. Union.
Lancaster.
So we have, and some of them we've been paid. So, right? I mean,
Yeah.
1 or 2, yes.
2 on Lancaster, 1 on Union.
So, yes, Miss CFO, we are on top of that, and we are making sure that Margate gets its money back for demolishing some of these eyesores. We had another meeting today, as we have scheduled, for our dredging. I think Eddie's going to go into greater detail with that. We have a preliminary map showing the areas to be dredged. I think I'll let Eddie explain this one. We're talking a lot of money, so let him bear the bad news. Well, we're working on that one too. And then, is there any question of me at this point? I think that's about it. No?
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Chief Tomaso.
Commissioners and Mayor, you notice I gave you the 2016 year-end report from the fire department. All is well in the department. I would like to mention that
Oh, all right.
2 weeks from today, at the March 16th commission meeting, we're going to attempt, if with Fred's help, to show a video on the TV screens on fire safety. I think it's a great video for all of us and the public to see. Very informative. It's about 4 minutes long, and we're going to go for that in 2 weeks. So that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa, just in time.
Just in time. Yeah, everything is good in finance. Just want to remind you, next meeting we'll be introducing our 2017 municipal budget, and also we'll be introducing 2 capital ordinances, one for general capital and one for the utility. So I have the ordinances were prepared. I have to review them, so everything is on track. You will see that there is an ordinance on the agenda for today regarding the COLA. We do this every year. The COLA rate for this year is 0.5%, and by law, you're allowed to go up to 3.5% of prior year appropriations to set up this cap bank in the budget. As long as I've been here, we've never had to utilize that cap bank. We've always fallen below what the cap limit is, but that just establishes authority if we need to do that in the future. That's all I have.
Chief,
All is well in the police department, Mayor.
can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What would be the status of the bike rack?
I have a email to Jim Rattal. I'm waiting for a response. So next meeting, I'll have a definitive
Okay, yeah,
update for you.
could you please? Thanks. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Planning Board's having a special meeting March 20th at 6:30 to discuss the master plan. All are welcome. I believe we're receiving bids next week for landscaping contracts for the citywide landscaping. Janitorial will be coming up soon, and again, to reiterate the dredging, Ed will go into detail of that. Also attended a FEMA meeting yesterday, and FEMA is recommending that we adopt the new maps, the preliminary firm maps. And the new maps are being revised, being completely redone, and they're probably a couple years away again from being released and commented. So we have years ago, but they recommend that we adopt the preliminary firms as our map. Any questions on?
Have you reviewed it?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
I think we ought to adopt the preliminary firm and perhaps even go as far as to get rid of the ABFE maps that are, in my opinion, incomplete maps, and even though we still use them.
You good with that, Jim?
We need to have a discussion about the height elevation, because we want to do a straight across the board 12. So that means, but we want to see how many points we're going to lose on the CRS so we don't drop a class. So we need
Why
to,
would we drop in CRS if we're going up higher?
because you got 800 points from the ABFE maps, and that's why I was critical on keeping those till we figured out what we're going to do with the working maps. And now I just found out that a question was brought up at Roger's meeting, that if we get rid of the ABFE maps and go with the preliminary or the working map, we don't lose the points. But I want to see a directive from the CRS community that gives us the authorization not to lose the points.
Okay.
I don't want to drop a class is the key.
No, I understand that. That's critical for our insurance costs. But
And the other option is if we bank enough points from all the other activities that we're doing for CRS, it would be a wash. But the ABFE maps lends to a lot of confusion here in town, and I think we really ought to.
nail it down and have one.
In my opinion, the best available data is the preliminary firm map, and that that's the best available data.
What will that do? Does that lower the elevation in any parts of town?
In some areas, yes. But as Jimmy said, we're discussing internally about having like a flat, fixed rate across the island, so to get rid of a lot of confusion.
And what would we do, go 3-foot freeboard maybe? Is that what you're talking about?
A freeboard would vary, but the idea is to say the minimum height now is like 11 feet. If we go 12 feet across the board, even 12 feet to the bottom of the floor and the top of the floor would be 13, we more than comply with any variant, any requirements. But nobody's gonna have to look at this map, look at that map, and what zone am I in, what's this line mean? That goes away.
It's extremely confusing. I know it is to me. Here's what I'm willing to do. Next week, let's maybe meet for 2 hours, maybe at my office, have them up on the screen. You tell me the precise wording you guys want, and we'll knock it out.
The issue is, that Jimmy mentioned, is the loss of CRS points. I think we ought to look at that first and see where we stand with other points to offset that loss.
If I remember, it was Gould who we had to send to for approval, but does she, or he, no,
He,
she?
Chris, he.
Does he have any say on our points?
No,
He does not.
no.
Why don't we do this anyway? Why don't we get the ordinance in the shape that you're recommending and send it to whoever has the say on our point system? And that way it's not verbal, it's here's the written document, here's what we're doing.
Right.
But I would assume if you go to a uniform height of 12, we wouldn't run afoul of those points, because you'll have higher minimum floor elevation.
Right, but it's the loss of the adoption of a map that's
Right.
incomplete is
Well,
we're losing
let's see if we
points.
get it right.
And to me, the means outweigh the cost from that. I mean,
Yes.
using 2 different maps doesn't work.
I understand how important it is.
Actually, we're
You're
using
all-
3
Next week,
maps.
let's just do it.
A lot of confusion.
But I do need your technical expertise, because really on both of it, it does get confusing.
I rebuilt it into my budget for a comprehensive review, but we have to pass the budget in April, right? It's not going to be passed till then. And then the guy, Ben Ichafoya, will come in and do an evaluation how we can maintain our 5, get more points like Roger wants, to get rid of the ABFE map, bring the new map in, but not lose our classification. I've already thought this out. We're already clean all the way up till the end of the year on this. That's one of the keys. That's why we increased our budget on that.
All right, just a question. How's that affect us on our end result on height if we go to 12 or even 13? We would keep what exists, not to exceed 28 foot,
28 foot, or actually the master plan is recommended a higher.
30 or 30 foot.
It'll still be the same difference.
Okay.
What happens is you have houses across the street from each other that vary by 2 to 3 feet, when it doesn't really make sense.
What's the master plan going to recommend?
I believe we're looking at 30 feet building height across the board to make the roof pitches work. In certain areas, you already allow 30 feet, but other areas were 28 feet.
I know Longport, I'm on the planning board, they're really wrestling with this one too. So,
Right.
uh,
And the idea is to drop down the eaves so it looks like 28 feet, so you don't have the mass. But we live in a higher world because of flooding, and they're actually thinking about adding on sea level rise to freeboard, which would be possibly another foot.
Now, will this create issues where we got into the past in licensing agreements because of the volume of steps, the amount of steps, that we have to work it out, that it would come into the right of way? See, that's something.
In most cases that I've seen, the right of way will still be free and clear of any steps. I think there's enough space for returns. I haven't seen that being a potential issue at all yet.
And it won't put a bigger burden on our planning zoning board for requests for variances?
No, the way the ordinance reads now, that's pretty much an exemption from going to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Roger. You have anything else?
No. I'm done. We've heard enough.
Never.
Never heard enough.
Never. Ed?
Okay, we may as well, we'll talk about dredging first. I gave everyone a copy, or the commissioners a copy of I believe it's 4 plans. What we did is we based, these plans are based on the drawings that were done as part of the first post-Sandy planning grant bathymetric survey that Ponzio did. And based on that bathymetric survey, we cordoned off 4 different areas that we would think would be like phase 1 of dredging. And where, what we'll call the low-hanging fruit, okay, for the most part. Those 4 areas, if you were to take and dredge up into the property within like 10 feet of the property line or the bulkheads, the quantities come out at somewhere around 181,000 cubic yards. If you were just to do to their waterfront property lines, or just, for example, in the 2 canals, if you did just the center 100 feet, which is owned by the state, and then reduced it in other areas, you'd probably cut that in half. But the thought was, this is what we were trying to base our first permit on, our permit application. If we include all those areas, that gives the homeowner the opportunity that in the future, if we get to a point where we actually have a dredging contractor out there, the homeowners can join in, or the business owners can join in, because they'll already be permitted. So it's the first round of what we came up with. We've met twice so far, what I'll call the dredging committee, and this is, what was the result of that. In order to do the permit, what we're doing now, based on today's meeting, we're going to put together a cost estimate to do a permit, and do it 2 cost estimates actually. Assuming a land-based disposal area would be one estimate, and assuming a water-based disposal area, Hole 86, Shelter Island, whatever, would be the other cost. And the biggest differential would be the testing, because it'd be much more stringent testing for water-based. But the construction cost would be significantly less, but it also would take much longer for that to happen. So that's a summary of where we're at. Like I said, while I'm away next week, but Joe Johnson's putting together an estimate for what it would take, including, we would have to do another bathymetric survey of all these areas, because the DEP will only accept 6 months, a bathymetric survey that's 6 months old. In addition, the level of detail in this bathymetric survey is not adequate for their permitting requirements. On a different front, which is our National Fish and Wildlife grant, we did receive, we submitted the sedimentation sampling and analysis plan to them. We received comments. Joe shared with me his response to all the comments today, so we're going to fire that off back to them, and I'm sure there'll be another round of comments. This will go back and forth because some of the areas that we maintain would be maintenance dredging. They're going to say was never dredged. We know they've been dredged in the past, probably prior to the DEP being in existence. So we're going to get into that, but we'll fight that fight. With the hope being that if they fund with the remaining funding, some of the testing, it could take some of the burden off of us for the areas we may want to proceed with that are not part of their master scheme, which is to restore wetlands. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that, but there's actually, like I said, 2 things going on with dredging. Either way, a major impact will be felt one way or the other if the governor does or does not sign the legislation for the shellfish habitat, and that's something that looks very positive. I was at a meeting this morning, and everyone was commenting on how they felt that it was going to be signed, but when we see it happen, then we know it'll make life a lot easier for us. It'll take that argument away of what is maintenance dredging and what is not maintenance dredging.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that, just for the public, that shellfish habitat legislation was written by our solicitor, which is going to be beneficial for every town, every coastal town from Sandy Hook to Cape May.
very kind, I helped her. Wayland's office.
Yeah, but
Two
you
barrels.
were instrumental in it, Scott.
Yeah, I was pushing it. If they go with the 250, it's going to open it up. We could maybe even dredge where the log cabin is, where Fulton Avenue is, mouths of all three of our lagoons. It will help, but we still face a lot of hurdles. And again, our number one spot to put our dredge material, or as I like to say, to restore marine habitat, would be Shelter Island that we own with Becker. I saw the paper said 800 cubic yards. It's a lot more than 800. It's like 300,000 cubic yard capacity because it's a 4.5 acre, 28-foot deep hole.
Right.
And it would be so much cheaper if they would allow us to restore marine habitat.
And
As
Ed,
you know, it's,
and for the public also, we're using that NIFWIF grant to pay
Yeah.
for the testing.
Correct, yes.
So it's being, the state of New Jersey is reimbursing us for the cost associated.
Right, that's what the sedimentation sampling plan that we're fighting through with them will then give us the location and the number confirmed of the testing we can do, and then we can proceed with the next phase, which would be actually order the testing.
Thank you.
Okay, the Ventnor Avenue and Washington Avenue plans, I distributed to everybody. I think everyone's on the same page on the one that we liked, which was, I think, scenario 4. And so we're putting that together.
You good with four?
Yeah.
You okay with that?
So, with the elimination of that little calming bump out, we'll do striping there or something instead, and put the money into trees or something. So, we're proceeding with that. Amherst Avenue bulkhead repairs on tonight's agenda. There's authorization for us to go to bid. We had discussion about that today also. And prior to actually advertising it, I want to sit down with you guys before the next meeting, and we have to determine the magnitude of restoration we want to do on that bulkhead. Okay. Essentially, you know, do we want it to last this long, or do we go and actually just do a complete bulkhead job there? So,
I don't think we're in a position to do it.
well, that was my feeling, but I want to give you the options of what we talked about. You know, do we want something that'll last 5 years, 10 years, you know, and it's in very, very bad shape. So,
You'll put that information together and then we'll
yes,
talk about it.
and then we can talk about it.
Maybe next week. How about the middle of next week?
Oh, that'd be good. Okay. Can I call you? Okay, the 2017 CDBG applications, that's the grant program that we fund our handicap access points with. There was a meeting this week. Joe Johnson attended, picked up our packet, and we just have to determine a location. So what we've been doing is taking the map and trying to close up the holes as we go. So we'll have to determine the location for the next application and then file that. Both the municipal building playground upgrades, which is the pickleball courts, as well as the current handicap pass-through. The pre-construction meetings will be March 9th at 1:30 for the pickleball courts and at 2 o'clock for the handicap access. And then the notice to proceed will be issued at that point, and the contractors will be off and running. 2015 state aid, which is Winchester from Jerome to Granville. The water main and the storm sewer is complete from Jerome to Hanover. The dewatering is, I want to say, done. They've dewatered down to the proper level. Storm sewer is going in right now between Hanover and Granville, followed by water main, and then they'll get into concrete work from that point. So as the road is still closed in that area, the two streets adjacent to the Ross School, Haverford and Granville, both are closed at this point, adjacent by the school, and it'll be like that for at least another week or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on weather. The road program, Contractor's still in Lancaster Avenue from Monmouth to Amherst. It's a very difficult street. They've had, as everyone has seen, they've had to close Amherst Avenue. We have 2 sanitary sewer mains in that street. One is 12 feet deep, 12, 13 feet deep, 24 inch. It's a main trunk line for the city. On top of that is an 8-inch one. There's also a water main that has to be replaced in there, and all the services, so they're probably in there for a couple more weeks. That's a tough street. The Gladstone Avenue water tank painting, the scaffolding is being erected, and they're gonna be working soon on the painting the exterior. April 16th is the contract completion date. We wanted to make sure that it gets done by that point. The weather, other than the wind, these past couple days has been cooperating, so that shouldn't be a problem. And the City Hall repurposing, the one south here, contractors completed everything but one of the punch list items, and I don't want to say the one item is partially complete, but we're still arguing with them. There was a little glitch with the operation of the boiler, and Tony's guys have been courteous enough to keep silencing the alarm and then taking a picture of the code so we can feed it to the Boilermaker. The Boilermaker was here today. They replaced a couple of the components. They said if it keeps doing it, they'll come back. They're going to keep replacing components. There has to be a faulty initial component there, so they're on top of it and they'll take care of it. And we had a meeting with South Jersey Gas and their pavers today and their contractor Kylie. They anticipate to start the paving on the 27th of March, which I remember because it was my mother's birthday. They'll probably start milling prior to that. The contractor is AE Stone for the paving. We requested that they give us a schedule, and again, like we did with the last portion, we've asked that they don't tie up consecutive streets. We want them to alternate, jump a street or two to alleviate parking problems for the residents. So they are fairly confident they will be done for everything prior to Memorial Day. So we'll just hope that the weather cooperates. And that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Can I ask Roger a question?
Oh, wait, I have one quick thing. That's not on my schedule, but Verizon Wireless has contacted us at the Gladstone Avenue tank. They want to replace 6 of their antennas with new antennas that are essentially the same size, same weight. They're just a different mechanism.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, so they've given us full construction drawings with the details of the sizes of them, the sizes of the existing. But I told them I wanted to bring it to the commission before we gave them authorization.
They pay us for where they're located.
They pay, it's about $32,000 a year, I believe, is the lease.
As long as you can verify they're the same size and aren't,
I think it complies with the FCC regulations.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, I mean, essentially, in all honesty, if they want to do it, they're allowed to do it without,
well, that's not true. They want to mount squawk boxes
oh, well, those, yeah,
all along the shoreline, and they had a lot of problems down in Cape May, so they abandoned it. Now they went back to the manufacturer to design a different piece because it was so intrusive. So that's something I just want
no, this is,
to stay on top of.
what we did was we asked them for the, yeah,
Is that for Gladstone that's being painted?
yes, and what we also
So why
told
don't
them
They have
if,
to get it done before we paint?
or they have to make sure, that we gave them the paint spec. They said there should be, other than a bolt or a nut that'll have to be touched up, there's no welding or anything, everything should bolt onto the painter rings. But we told them whatever they do, first of all, they're gonna have to post an escrow for us to make sure they're doing it properly. And second, if they have to scratch anything, they have to touch it up, and we gave them the paint specs. So we told them to try to get them done now. Chances are the lead time on the actual equipment is way past the time that the painters will be done. So, but I just wanted to run it all by you and make sure everybody's okay with that.
We're good. You're really finished this time?
I'm really finished.
The video pipe bid,
Yes.
is that some urgency on that? Is that why you're?
I think Frank needs him on the contract, your
Would
contract
you like us to
expired.
add this to the agenda for tonight if there's no objection?
If you could, I'd recommend yes.
Yeah, I would support that. Just one question.
Yes.
Mayor, may
You may.
I? How many bidders did we have for that?
I believe there are four people picked up plans and specs, 3 people bid.
Oh, okay, okay.
I got the plan.
This section.
Okay, answer my question.
Johanna, can you add the video pipe link for tonight's agenda, please?
Yes.
Just one further comment about the master plan and the additional height. Exempt from the 30 feet recommendation is Marvin Gardens. The board and the constituents want to maintain the integrity of that neighborhood and keep it as is.
You can have that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Johanna? Do you have any comment? For the clerk?
All is well in the clerk's office.
Okay. Marty, you have anything?
Yes, I do, Mike. And so it seems to me that as a result of your meeting last week with the Army Corps and the DEP, that Margate hit the sand jackpot, to say the least.
We got,
So my understanding, just because I wasn't there, but my understanding from reading the minutes is that they're going to start in Atlantic City, and then they're skipping Ventnor and Margate, going to Longport. So they're going to do Longport pre-summer. Then they're going to do Margate all summer,
they're
essentially.
gonna give us all their attention.
All summer,
long.
we got them from the beginning of the summer to the end of the summer. We will have them on our beach, and then miraculously, they will then move to Ventnor after the summer and pump sand in Ventnor. So the way I see this is now not Dune Boggle, it's Dune Gate. And I think that we should discuss what our options are, because it just doesn't make sense to me that we are, or maybe it does, that we are caught right in the middle of losing our entire summer to these people building pipes and pumping sand on our beach. And I think when our residents understand this, and when our realtors understand this, and when the people that are coming to rent houses here for the summer understand this, there's going to be a lot of trouble in Margate. And so I think we should maybe talk about what our options are, if in fact we have any. Now, I thought that after we came out of court the first time, that Judge Baum indicated that if there was going to be any harm to Margate as a result of this project, that we had avenues of recourse to go back to her. And I'm wondering if maybe that's something we should explore.
I would have no problem doing that. And
But that's my take of what I read from the minutes of the meeting.
one minor exception,
Okay.
correction rather, they're gonna start and do Longport at Atlantic City at the same time.
Oh, at the same time?
There's 2 dredges.
Right.
Oh, okay.
2
But,
teams.
but we will have their intention, for the public, we will be dredging in Margate from June 23rd to August the 31st. So, really,
And
it is
Mike,
all of the summer.
and
And just let me finish my
right, well,
statement.
the
They will-
notes, they're setting up
Yeah,
their pipe
right.
and all that beginning of June.
This is the dredging.
Yeah, well.
And the dredging will take place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they got us good.
There will be pipe the entire stretch from Atlantic City to Longport the entire time.
Is that, now that pipe on the beach or in the water?
No, there is a pipe that comes and feeds a header
Okay.
that's on the
So
beach.
the header will be on the beach?
It'll be buried, it'll be on top of the beach, but it'll have a mound for access that people can walk. They have a special crew that just keeps access on all the beach ends. Wherever there's steps, they're gonna do that. We brought up the question about our fireworks display on July 4th weekend. They said that they will make sure they're not doing work on Haverford from the pier to the Jerome Avenue jetty during that period of time. We discussed off the record, off to the side, that we need to have our beach patrol headquarters elevated so there's no obstruction with view from the headquarters with dunes. So they agreed, we don't have a contract yet, that we have to do the work and it'll be fully reimbursed by the state of New Jersey. So there's a meeting scheduled, I think sometime in the next 2 weeks.
The
with
week of the 13th, we're trying to set it up for like the 15th or 16th.
Right. So we did hit the
I'm
jackpot.
Excuse me, John, about the Beach Patrol headquarters, approximately how much is that gonna cost for us? Even though we'll get
We'll have an
reimbursed, we
answer
need
for
funding
that
in
in a week.
place.
Yeah, we just talked about it today,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's,
I asked for that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to have all that information prior to us sitting down with the Army Corps and the DEP, because they said they're picking up the tab. So, you know, our engineer has permission to design it, and I just want to make sure all our ducks in line before, and they sign a contract in reference to it so that we are reimbursed.
Okay, but
So,
if we're paying the bills up front, I
We're
have
gonna
to
have
add this
money,
in our
yeah.
capital ordinance, so I need something, because we're about to introduce, so I'm gonna have to get that ordinance.
I mean, we could throw a
changed.
number at it just to make sure it's there, but it could be 150,000, it could be 50,000. I don't, until we take an elevation and we see how it's going to be, you know.
Well, you know what, I'm not gonna increase the funding in the ordinance, but I at least have to add a description to cover it. So if you can just
I'll
at
have
least send
JJ
me a description to add to that.
Tomorrow he'll email you just a description of what we're talking.
Okay.
All right.
Mike, is there any precedent, John, maybe you guys would know, for these people pumping sand in a town in the middle of the summer?
And they do it all the time.
All the
So, and it's just a matter of, how,
They don't pump in the winter.
right?
They're not
okay.
allowed, yeah.
They won't do it in
They do
January.
March till probably
Starting in
November,
March.
December, because of conditions in the winter.
Right, okay.
Ventnor, I believe, it was warm weather. And I remember years ago when I was a lifeguard in Atlantic City, it was in July, August, that they did it. So, I know it's easy to say, oh, it's in spite on Margate, and maybe it is, but they're gonna be affecting all this. If they're pumping sand in Margate, those waters will be murky and whatnot.
Oh,
It'll
yeah,
affect
it's a disaster, to say the
It's a mess.
least, because exactly what Scott said, the silt from the pumping will rise to the surface and be in where our bathers are. They take, what they have as their plan, they take 1,000-foot increments. They shut that down to the public.
Right.
That's where their pumping operation is. And then it's in the contract that within 2 weeks, their subcontractor, Walters Marine, has to complete the finished dune, the fencing, and the ramps.
Crossovers, yeah.
So, in other words, they're saying roughly every 2 weeks, they should move 1,000 feet.
So is that like 3 blocks? Is that 3 blocks at a time?
Probably
That's one and
4.
three, yeah.
So 4 blocks at a
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, he said 200 foot a day is what they move.
Yeah.
But they're still gonna block that whole area.
Right, so we'll
So,
have 4
160
blocks blocked off
160
where people can't go to the beach?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, they can't go to that beach.
No, that's what I mean.
That's what he said.
Okay.
And I had a conversation with Mayor Russo today, that we would enter into a reciprocal agreement during this summer and this summer only, that Margate Beach badges would be eligible for our bathers to go to Longport, and vice versa, because when they're pumping on 34th, 35th, 36th Street and they're shut down, those individuals might want to come down to Coolidge, whatever those other streets are. Monroe and all, it's the President Streets. So, you know, that's where we're at right now.
And I'd like to just, having gone through this years ago in Ventnor, one of the biggest headaches, it's gonna be the beep, beep, beep of the tractor.
The reverse,
They work through night,
the reverse, yeah.
24 hours. And there's no incentive, if this helps, there's no incentive for the subcontractors to dog it or go slow. They wanna get out. They've got a lot of fixed costs, and the longer they're sitting out there, the more they're exposed to storm damage. So they're gonna move. But you're gonna hear them at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, you're gonna hear it 24 hours a
Yeah.
day, as long as they're pumping.
All right, let's,
No, I'm good. That's all I wanted to get on the table.
Turn that air conditioner up.
It's ugly.
it's not pretty.
We get the earplug franchise.
At this point, we will open for public comment, and as usual, 3 minutes on any subject that was discussed here this afternoon. Is there any public comment?
My man.
Pots and pans. Sewell, 22 West Drive, following up on the comments of the CFO concerning the 2017 budget. The finance minister previously noted we're on line to realize yet another $35 million in increased ratables. And this follows a decade of such increases, according to the mayor in the Margate calendar. The question I have is that, these new ratables, by and large, use very little city services. They don't send any kids to the public schools, and they're basically here 10 weekends at best in the summer. And my question is, taxpayers have seen zero return, a nada dividend of all these tens and 30 millions and 35 millions of dollars in tax ratables. My question is, can you riddle me why can Brigantine afford 2 tax reductions in a row, and we haven't even seen a single red cent reduction in this past 11 years? I think it's incumbent upon this commission to begin to reflect those dividends and to redistribute them to the senior citizens to enable them to be able to stay in this town. I think that's a legitimate request, and I strongly urge the mayor to do what they've done in Brigantine and not succumb to those closet New Dealers who believe in the CCC and the WPA. Can't have that. It's not your personal ATM machine. Okay. Now, no laughing from the peanut gallery. Onward to Ed, our city engineer. I like the cost estimates, the land disposal, the water-based disposal, but in nowhere do I hear about a revenue source or sources to cover such spectacular endeavors. From whence do we derive this revenue? Oh, you don't know? Well, that doesn't surprise me.
You can't ask for any money anywhere, grants, applications, and we haven't identified any yet, but we're looking, so we know how much it's gonna cost.
And
So once we get a cost estimate, then we can start to search for a revenue source. But there is no defined revenue source at this point.
And last but not least, following up on the finance minister's notation of the Dune Gate, at least be comfortable. They might be using American-made piping. But even more importantly, injunctive relief, especially when it deals with the EPA. From what I understand, the sand granulation, and I believe I dropped several photocopies off to the esteemed solicitor.
15 seconds, John.
Well, Mayor, you're just using up my time.
3
Where's your
seconds,
clock at, Mayor?
right there.
Where's your clock? I don't trust your
Trust
cheap
me, John.
Chinese
Trust me.
watch. You probably got that at the dollar store. But let me finish this thought about the finance minister. There is injunctive relief, finance minister, and you can even do it pro se. And you can say that the grounds from which they're deriving that sand that they're dredging is actually the feeding ground for the fish, particularly those flounder. And since they've said that there's been a reduction in the population, it might be because they're stealing their feeding grounds. Make an EPA argument. In fact, you might get the state to do it. That's enough time for me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other public comment?
Sharon Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. I would just like to ask about the conversation about Washington and Ventnor Avenue. I wasn't clear what you were talking about.
Do you have a copy of the drawings?
No,
I don't need like a whole bunch of details, I just,
We're about to redesign the corner of Wawa, where we have those barricades for the last bunch of years. We're gonna redesign it to make it look more attractive, that's all
oh,
it is.
great, that's great. This place looks great, it's nice to be in here. With regard to the dune situation, whether it is retaliation or not, it's besides the point. I guess my couple questions are, one, I also thought that the judge said that they had to have all the easements. So my one question is, the city, I believe, had about 90% of the easements that they needed to go forward. And where are we on that? And as far as, they, I think, offered us $28,000 or something for all those easements. And where we are with the private easements and how that ties into it.
Mr. Abbott will answer that.
They already have the easements because they filed their taking, and that acts as the right for them to move forward. What's at issue now is the compensation for those easements. You have a number of people, in fact, I just got 5 letters today, 5 of the private property owners and the city of Margate still have not received the state's final report as to how they come up with valuation. So they've asked for another 90-day extension, which a court will give them automatically. I'm not even going to contest that. You're right. The offer to Margate was, I believe, $29,000. What we'd like to do is maybe get money for special tractors to do that churning of sand behind the dunes. But that's, Sharon, we don't know if we can get that. We also threw in there that we'd like to get $10 million for a new drainage system for our beach side. What is interesting, though, and I think John alluded to this, and maybe some others have too, and I know you did, Maureen, Mike, they're going to do this project. We think there's going to be problems with drainage. We will have to document the problem with drainage. They have said in both lawsuit with us as well as those beachfront owners that if there is a problem, they will come back and rectify it. Well, we'll see. One way or the other, that issue is going to come up, I think. Whether we have to go to court or maybe they voluntarily do it, we don't know yet. Too early to say.
And I also think that although they've done this in the past and they do it in the summer and all of that, and they're starting here and all that, true, is I think that as a community, I think that we should not just say, okay, and I think that we should get the public involved. And I think that if I had already rented a summer home, which some people already have, now I'm not a lawyer or a real estate person, but I have now paid a lot of money to rent a beach house. And now what I thought I rented is not going to be accessible. And I think that is there a way, and is the city willing to at least try to go back and ask for a change in the schedule? Whether or not we think there's a chance, and heck, we'll get it, I just feel like we should do something, or we could do something. And I'd like to see if, I would like to see it not just be the citizens. I mean, it affects all our businesses and everything, and we know how things work. I mean, it's not really about whether it's happened before or not, or what. It's all about all these kind of underpinnings. So I hope that the city, the administration, and the public isn't being like, well, we've done what we could, and we got it this far, and, whatever they say goes. I just hope that's not where we're headed.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner, to comment on the dunes. When they start, if I was a cynical person, which I'm not, okay, I would say that this is a payback by the state. And frankly, I said as much 2 years ago. that, they can be very vindictive. I've seen this many times, beyond belief. The construction industry, you want to screw with the city, you're going to pay, okay? And, but I'm not a cynical person, really. But let me tell you something. When the people of this city are inconvenienced by this dredging, they're going to point fingers, okay? And people are going to, and I know some people they're going to blame, okay? And that could be ugly. But I'm just, I think you ought to be ready for that, okay?
I'm moving out of town.
You're moving out. It might be a good idea. I would suggest, John, disconnecting your phone, okay? But and you know what? This is a little bit of poetic justice for these beachfront homeowners that, didn't like this. Gee, I hope they're not kept up at 4 o'clock in the morning by the. That would be terrible. I really ripped me up.
I'm glad you're not a cynic.
I'm not a cynic. No, not at all. And I'm not. I mean, I guess they could have been a little bit more in this season, but I mean, they could have gone to the 15th of September. But I guess August 31st is pretty much the whole season, right?
It is the entire season.
Yeah. Like I said.
They're going to start mobilizing on the 2nd
Right.
of June. They're going to start bringing pipe by the library, and you're going to see truckload after truckload of pipe and machines on the beach the entire stretch.
Well, I've seen it in operation, and it's a big heavy equipment, big time, and I can guarantee you there's quite a few residents that are not going to like it. Like 99% of the people that go to the beach, they're not going to like it, and they're going to blame. There's going to be fingers pointed, I can assure you. So,
May I comment?
go ahead. Yeah.
It won't be because there was a lack of effort. There were 2 referendums. The city expended, how much did we expend legal fees?
Yeah, but you're missing the point.
Yes, Mr. Sewell.
You're missing the point,
So
Scott.
what are you suggesting? Should we go back to court a 3rd time and
Oh,
try to get a
absolutely
judge
not.
to enjoin this? Is that what you're saying to do? I'm curious.
No, he's saying that the inconvenience is temporary,
Yeah.
but the improvement will be permanent. That's what he's saying.
Oh, is that what you were saying?
That's exactly what he said.
No, what I'm
You
saying
and
is.
Commissioner Blumberg are on the same page on that. I missed it.
I think that'll be a cold day in hell.
I didn't know you could read it all. I didn't know.
Steve, I hate to say this, your time's up.
No,
This is
just
going
a second.
nowhere.
Wait a minute. He cut into my time. I just want to digress here for a second. Now, if the powers that be in this city had gone along with the state and the federal government, okay? Oh, like this?
Yes.
Well, you don't know that. I doubt that. But then again,
Ocean City or Sea Isle City or what they do. They're doing something.
but why are look, what are they doing, Scott?
They're doing something. Not in the winter. Because the ocean gets rougher coming out.
Why are they doing Longport in the spring?
Because they love Margate.
Like I said, whatever the reason is, there's going to be fingers pointed and there's going to be some ugliness, okay? And
Let's hope not. We should all try to get along.
can't we all get along?
Thank you,
I
Steve.
agree with that.
Thank you, Steve. Any other public comment?
Excuse me, Mayor. Is the MBA aware that this is going to affect their plans for beach stock?
We'll
No, any events we
We
have,
have,
any
they agree.
weddings, any issues,
with
they
that,
divert and move to another
they've
area.
agreed to work with us on that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other public comment? Motion to close public comment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Thank you. We will begin the public meeting in 5 minutes.